All right, everyone. So it is 2 o'clock on the dot, and we are going to go ahead and get started with our Speech 219 check-in. So I really wanted to have this check-in just really briefly for just a few minutes so that you can have another resource outside of just reading the instructions. I find that because our course is a little different from the standard online course, that having some verbal instructions and seeing this on a slide can sometimes be really helpful when coupled with reading the instructions on your own. And so you'll find that our course is structured in such a way that we have some major projects, and I really wanted to make sure that I talked about two of those major projects today: the informative speech and the team project. And so you'll notice that when you have Module 1 assignments due, for example, on Sunday the 13th, it'll take me just a little bit of time to grade those assignments and get them back to you. So right now, it's Monday, August 14th, and it will take me, 1 to 3 days to review any discussion, provide feedback on that discussion for you, and turn those around. And for an assignment, it's going to take me a few more days, so 3 to 5 days, to return those assignments, just because assignments are more in depth, they include more steps, more detail, and so I really have to make sure I spend a little more time on those assignments to grade those. Now, one thing that you'll also notice in our sort of course structure and setup is that we'll always have our initial post when we have a discussion, and that initial post will always be due by the 4th day of a module week. That's really important so that you give yourself enough time to really carefully work on that assignment instead of working on the discussion and the assignment in the same day, right? The quality of the assignments can really suffer because both the discussion post's initial post and the assignment that will be due in any module week will have to apply the module's readings, videos, and lessons. That's going to be really important to your success. And so this week you're going to get started with Module 2 work, and you'll notice that your discussion is the informative presentation outline. You'll also notice that you're only able to complete your Module 2 assignment, which is a 30-second story, based on that informative presentation outline. You're only able to complete that assignment after you complete the outline in your discussion. So that's another reason why discussion posts are due on Thursday as opposed to on Sunday. You'll also find in Module 2 this week the team project best practices and, of course, your introduction to the group project. So I wanted to make sure you knew that in Module 3, you will actually have that informative presentation submitted. And so it's going to be important that you look at and incorporate my feedback on your informative presentation outline and on the 30-second story, which you'll use in your informative presentation. And you take that feedback from Module 2 and you make sure that you incorporate it into that informative presentation that will be due in Module 3. Hi there, Ben. Welcome. I went ahead and got started so that we could make sure we had a good recording. So we are already talking about Module 3 and where the informative presentation will actually be due. So that's going to be due in Module 3, and you'll also have another discussion assignment that will be due in Module 3 as well. So this also helps you when you frame up the workload for the group project so that you can really carefully and evenly distribute the work that you're doing each week with the work that you're doing on your group projects. Let's talk a bit about your group project. Your groups have already been formed, and you'll see down here under the Your Team section that you can actually view your groups today and get started on your group project. You have a little hub within Canvas that you're able to use. There are discussion forums. You're able to share files with one another, whether it's a Word document file or a PowerPoint file. And so that little group section of Canvas just for your team. And of course, I'll pop in there from time to time and help answer questions and things like that. But that group area for your team will be very important for you to start playing around in now, especially if in Canvas you have never explored that group project hub or section before, just so that you're able to effectively execute the 3 graded parts of the group project. So I want to make sure that we go over these together, especially because I taught a live, no Eagle Vision version of this course at the Orlando campus a couple of terms ago. And I taught this class via Eagle Vision Home last term. And so I know some of the challenges that students face with the group project. That's another reason why I thought it would be very helpful for everyone to have this sort of video presentation check-in so that you know, starting in Module 2, sort of what this group project is all about and what sort of challenges you need to have your eyes wide open for. So in Module 4, you will actually turn in Group Project Part 1. That's going to be a written proposal that includes the speech type that your team selected, so the actual purpose of your group project you'll turn in. You'll turn in the jobs of everyone on your team. You'll turn in a timeline, so how are you going to complete this project? And you'll turn in some preliminary research. In Module 6, you will submit Group Project Part 2, and in Module 7, you'll submit Group Project Part 3. So Part 1 is like the plan, and Part 2 and Part 3 are actual group project speeches. And so I want to explain the difference between the two. Your group is going to select one of the speech types that you see here under project instructions. These speech types are listed in italics. And your group is just going to read a little bit about these speeches. You can read about them in your textbook. You can read about them conducting research online through the library, through the Hunt Library. You can look up these speeches, and your group is going to say, okay, we want to use the speech of introduction for our group project. Once you've selected your speech type, and again, just for an example, we're going to use speech of introduction, you'll do 2 things. First, you're going to create a presentation lesson. So you're going to teach the class how to give a speech of introduction. For Group Project Part 3, you're actually going to give a speech of introduction. So you can see Group Project Part 2 as the lesson where you're training the class how to give that kind of speech type in the future. And for Group Project Part 3, you're actually demonstrating that speech type. Again, you have a lot of options here, and you can even play around with the setting, the audience, the actual person, right? So the speech of introduction, you might say, this is an introduction of a person at a charity awards banquet, right? So you can really play around and have fun with the kind of speech that you're going to give, and that really allows you to be creative in the speech type that you select. Now, I will say it's going to be very important that you are reading through and understanding the best practices for a team project, because I get it. I have had team projects of my own in the past. They can be tricky, right? Sometimes you have just one group member participating and everyone else is off doing their own thing, and the group project is not going to be successful if everyone doesn't participate. This is because we are doing a presentation and everyone has to be videoed, everyone has to be a part of that presentation, and so there's not a way to sort of say, okay, John Smith, you're doing all of the work, right? Because everyone has to contribute to those actual presentations that you give. And so it's really important that you set your team up for success by making sure that you schedule some synchronous time to talk about the project. So in addition to using that hub for your group project in Canvas, schedule a Google Hangouts meeting, talk on WhatsApp so that you're able to communicate sort of in the moment and live, and that helps a lot of times eliminate some of the communication issues that happen with a team project. Now, it's also important to remember that you should reach out just a couple of times to your teammates, but if someone is not participating, you definitely need to reach out to them via Canvas message, and then if they do not respond, you need to let me know so that I can help your team be successful. So using these team project best practices, it's really going to allow your team project to be successful. Now again, You are working in Module 2 on your informative presentation outline. That's something that you're going to post by Thursday, August the 17th by 11:59 p.m. Eastern. I know there were some questions too about time zones, so Eastern time or the Daytona Beach campus time is the time when we submit our work. You're also going to, let me go back one more time. You're also going to take what you are outlining in your Module 2 discussion, and you're going to create a 30-second story that you're going to incorporate in your informative presentation. And you're going to use my feedback on both of those assignments to make sure your Module 3 informative presentation is amazing. So it's really important that you review that Module 3 assignment instruction sheet now so that you're able to create an outline that is just fully inclusive of all of these instructions. So making sure you know the time limit for this presentation, right? It's a 4 to 5 minute speech. So when you're creating your outline, don't create a 30-minute presentation outline. The focus is a 4 to 5 minute presentation outline, making sure you know you're going to have a 30-second story that you'll include, making sure you have an introduction, body, and conclusion, etc., etc. It's also really important for you to know how to submit your work. And so this is a big reason why in Module 1 you submitted a video file and a PowerPoint or Keynote presentation file so that you are perfectly comfortable with how to record and upload speeches in the course. But there will always be those reminders for you, and you can see the links here in blue. So I just wanted to see, because every time we do these check-ins, it is just a check-in for a few minutes. I like to keep it 15 minutes or less. So I wanted to see, Ben, if you had any questions for me. You can type those questions in the chat box. For those of you who are watching the archive or the playback, if you guys have any questions, do not hesitate to send me a message in Canvas. We can always set up a time to meet, to talk in my office hours, always, always, always. And we can always set up a time to talk on the phone. I am generally available from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday. But of course, if you need to talk, for example, after you get off of work, maybe on a Thursday afternoon or evening, I am definitely available. Just let me know. We will have to set that up by appointment. But again, I am always here and happy to help however I can. So Ben, hopefully this is helpful for you. It explains some of these major projects coming up. And again, we just do these sessions. Oh, sure, I absolutely can. So we just go over these sessions for those of you who are watching at home, just so that you can have a video accompaniment in addition to those written instructions. So I'm going to go ahead and end the recording.